bbc.co.uk/inside the supermarket and follow the links to the Open University.
He don't half lord it up in Albert Square, but where does that swag come from? Climbing Danny Dyer's family tree next. And if you think you want to go under the cosmetic knife, why not watch this first? Plastic Surgery Undressed is streaming now on BBC Three.
This is the house we stand for. The one with real power. The one we hear. This is the house that relies on us to question the world, so you can change yours. This is the house we represent. Your general election on the BBC. The power is yours.
I came here looking for a great perhaps, for real friends, and a more than minor life.
Her name's Alaska Young.
You ready to find love, Mr. Halter?
She's so beautiful.
Dangerous ones always are.
BBC Three's Looking for Alaska. All episodes streaming now on BBC iPlayer.
Never, ever underestimate me.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
Have some respect.
Oh, please, you don't
Can I
know
have
anything
that,
about
please?
respect.
Thank you.
Whoa. Oh, you screwed it up. You're fired.
The Apprentice, streaming now on BBC iPlayer.
Question time after the news, but first, Danny Dyer is looking at his family tree and he's hoping to find a relative that's Keiko Bako, but he's about to discover a whole lot more than that.
This is Albert Square, this is Walford, this is my manor, this is where I work every single day, and I love it.
Danny Dyer is an actor most famous for his role as Mick Carter, the pub landlord of the Queen Vic in EastEnders.
This is the Vic, the beautiful Vic. Here she is, my baby.
Danny began acting while he was at school and has gone on to work on countless TV and film productions.
EastEnders comes along, I gave me this massive opportunity, and I knew I had to relish every second of it. People watching, stereotype and all that, they're going to expect me to be related to criminals. Maybe I'm related to a few criminals. You know, I want the opposite to that. Who knows where it's going to take me? I'd want to freak a few people out, you know, be related to aristocracy or something, you know, something completely left field to what I'm known for. You know, that's what I'd like. I'd like to freak a few people out.
Danny was born in Custom House in the East End of London in 1977 and now lives in Essex with his family.
Not working, is it? So growing up, you either had to make people laugh or you had to be able to hold your hands up or you'd get walked all over, to be fair. So I was a bit of a terror as a kid. I was heading probably for prison until I found my calling, which was acting. I'm from a broken family, if that's what you want to call it. In the respect that my mum and dad split up when I was quite young, but so really it was just my mum that brought me up, which is where I get my feminine side from.
Clever, isn't it?
My dad wasn't really around that much, really, as a father figure, so I never really asked about what my ancestry is. I'd like to maybe discover there are some strong male relations to me back in the day.
Danny is off to meet his father, Tony Dyer, to find out about his paternal line.
East Londoners.
Proper geezer.
Bowie Free, Danny Dyer, old school. That's
Good
us, yeah? Love you.
Pleasure. Go on. Watch. Look, press that one, look, whip it around. It's called a selfie.
He's meeting his dad for a pint in an East End pub to see what he knows about his ancestors.
Here he is, look, the old man, look.
What, son?
What, Pop?
Have a sit down.
What you want?
Oh, I'll have that one, them good.
Oh, get a cut of whatever the old man's drinking. Right, let's have a look at some of these smudges. Now, that one I remember well, because we had that up on our wall. One thing you and Mother did get, right, is you got beautiful-looking kids, didn't you?
That's it. Got some more here.
Yeah, let's have a pipe.
Right, have a look at this.
Cool.
There's it. Nan and Grandad and me.
So there they are, the old man. Look, there's me Nan there, Nanny Joyce. Grandad John. With Nanny, what was her parents like?
Well, I remember my granddad, but not my nan, because obviously she died. She died of her kidney failure.
How old was she, Nan, when her mother died?
About 9 years old.
9.
Yeah.
Never knew it, never knew it.
Granny there and Auntie Sylv, they brought my mother up.
That was Sylvie, was it? She's beautiful, old Sylvie, look. Absolutely stunning. But Mary Ann, she looks naughty. She looks like she can swing a right hand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just this strong face, fascinating boat.
This was your great-great-grandmother, and this is your great-great-great-grandmother.
Great-great-great-grandmother.
On the back, look.
1851. See, I love all this. I love all this.
2 years ago, son, wasn't it?
1851.
Hard face, wasn't it?
Really hard. Albert and Anne Buttervant.
My Aunt Sil said they run the workhouse down in Mile End. Them two.
They run the workhouse?
That's what I was told.
So anything going past Albert and Anne?
No, I don't know no further than that.
You don't go no further than that?
Nah.
This seems to be the route I'm going to be going down.
Yeah.
Albert and Anne Buttervant. That's near here then, isn't it? Mile End.
Danny's learnt that his paternal grandmother, Joyce, whose mother, Mary Ann Wallace, died young, was brought up by her grandmother, Mary Ann Buttervant. Danny knows nothing about the Buttervant family, except that his father, Tony, has told him Albert and Anne, his great-great-great-grandparents, ran a workhouse in London's East End.
For me dad to tell me about me nan losing her mum at 9, you know, it's freaked me head out a little bit. I didn't expect that. You know, I feel for her. I'm also intrigued about the fact that Anne and Albert Buttervant ran a workhouse. That must have been a real tough gig, that one. I think I want to learn a little bit more about that and see where that takes me.
Danny's going to the Tower Hamlets archive to meet Professor David Green, who studied the records of the Mile End workhouse.
So, Professor Green, good name, cool name that.
Pro Green.
Pro Green. Now this is a picture of Mary Ann, who was my 2 times great grandmother, who is the daughter of Anne Buttervant, and this is Albert Buttervant. So I learnt that these two run a workhouse, as far as I know.
Okay. I'm going to show you something from the workhouse records. Let's have a look.
So 1878.
Yeah, 1878, December the 2nd. And there is Anne Buttervant.
So there's Anne. So there's Mary Ann.
Who was born in 1877, so just a few months before they were admitted into the workhouse. So she's in there, the mother, with a very, very young baby, Mary Ann, entering the workhouse as a pauper.
As a pauper?
As a pauper.
So she didn't run the workhouse, she was just in it?
That's right. When you start...
David has scoured the Mile End workhouse records and compiled a list of all the Buttervant family admissions.
What about Albert? All I'm seeing here, really, is obviously Mary Ann, Anne, Eliza, Emma, which is obviously her daughters, yeah?
That's right.
No Albert. No Albert knocking about at all. And he comes in, oh, right, OK.
They don't just go in once, they go in often. That's a kind of 3-year period between 1878 and 1881 down here, and they're just in and out the whole time, usually without Albert. And he may be trying to find work outside. This would have been the poorest time of their life because they had 3 young daughters at least, because we see their names here, and he was the only breadwinner.
It's either death, really, starved to death, your kids, especially if you've got a baby.
They've got no choice at that point.
They committed no crime.
They committed no crime.
Other than being poor, that's their crime, is having no money.
So these are the bare bones of the life in the workhouse, but you get a really great feel if you could see the buildings.
The Mile End Hospital next door still uses the old workhouse buildings, where Danny's great-great-grandmother spent most of her childhood.
It's incredibly rare to see these buildings still standing, and your relative, Mary Ann Butterman, when she was a baby, this is where she would have been. That's the front.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see it's actually not changed very much.
Well, that looks quite grand.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hellhole.
So Mary Ann Butterman, very little education, no connections. Yep. So coming out of the workhouse, I don't know where your story is going to go from here, but too often these people fell foul of the law. It might be a really good idea, perhaps, to look at the police records to see if they picked her up.
Yeah. It's a strange feeling to think that that's the actual building Mary Ann, Anne and Albert actually knocked about in.
Danny is going to search the criminal records to see if he can find any trace of Mary Ann Buttervant after she came out of the workhouse.
All right, Nev.
Hello, Danny.
How are you,
How are you, mate? You all right? Cup of tea?
Yeah, a cup of tea.
You
Put
take
over here, yeah?
No problem.
You all right, babe? I ain't got a clue what's going to come up. Hopefully nothing. And there's no crime involved. OK. Search all records. So I found her name. It says she was a servant. So she did have a job. It says Mary Ann Buttervant, fouled at police court. A crime, having been delivered of a child, did by secret disposition of the dead body. Endeavour to conceal the birth thereof. So she pleaded guilty. Did not expect that. I thought it'd be petty stealing. When you've held your own newborn in your arm and it's such a vulnerable, little, weak little thing, you know, it always makes me feel slightly sick. The idea of a baby dying before it even gets started on this earth. But the idea of it being a baby, of all things, not babies, no. I feel that, you know, I'm starting this journey and I want to grow to love these people. I want to grow to love these people, you know, because these are my blood. You know, I don't want to find out stuff like this. I've come into this thinking, you know, like, I'll be quite detached from it and that, you know, it's just bits of paper I'm reading and stuff like that, but it actually goes a bit deeper than that.
Danny has come to the Bishopsgate Institute for further help unravelling Mary Ann Buttervant's criminal record. He's here to meet historian Dr. Daniel Gray.
Please call me Daniel.
Oh, good man. Right. My 2 times great grandmother, Mary Ann. She's got a criminal record, which I didn't know about, and she pleaded guilty of endeavouring to conceal the birth of a child. So I'm like... Now, she was 17 at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether she was helping deliver someone else's baby, but it was her own child. I don't know if you can explain to me what it means.
Well, I've found some documents which I'm hoping is going to help you with that. So this is the copy of an indictment.
Mary Ann Buttevant, delivered of a certain female child on the 24th day of February. I can't read it, it's driving me mad.
In the county of London and within the jurisdiction of the said court by a certain secret disposition of the dead body of the said child, to wit, by secretly placing the dead body of the said child in a pail, so that's a bucket, and covering its dead body with ashes there with intent to conceal the birth thereof. So what it's saying she's done is she's hidden the dead body of a baby and that it's her baby, that she's the one who's given birth to it.
I thought that might have been the case.
So this is the death certificate. Daughter of Mary Ann Buttevant, unmarried. So what's really crucial here about cause of death is that it says found dead, hemorrhage from umbilical cord from want of proper attention at birth. There's no evidence of violence. No one's tried to hurt the baby in any way. What's happened is that shortly after giving birth, when the umbilical cord's been cut, no one's tied it, and that means that you can bleed to death very, very quickly.
This is how I'm going to put it in my head, considering this is my family. You know, that she was 17. Maybe she didn't know she was pregnant. All of a sudden, this baby starts to come out. She then tries to deal with it herself. She doesn't know what to do. She gets it wrong. So, I can't imagine what that was like. And then, of course, she panics and puts the baby in a bucket, just...
If there had been a midwife there, which most working-class women can arrange to hire one, or at the very least, a local woman who's friendly and helps people out informally because she's given birth herself.
Just someone.
Someone. They would have known to tie the cord and been able to do it quickly enough.
Age 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Concealment of birth was a common offence in the Victorian period, and women could be prosecuted for hiding the dead body of a baby. It was the jury's job to decide whether or not the child had been intentionally killed.
What she could have got, and what they give women who they suspect of having deliberately killed their children, 2 years imprisonment with hard labour. But this is basically a suspended sentence, no jail time. They seem to have decided this was very much a tragic accident.
I know this might sound like a weird thing, but I'm slightly relieved.
I think relief is totally understandable.
Yeah.
Before she died in 1960, Mary Ann went on to have 10 other children. Her youngest, Sylvie, is now in her 90s and lives nearby in Poplar in East London.
I haven't seen her since I was, like, baby, tiny, so it's been a long, long time. But I'm really happy that there's somebody that's, you know, still alive, that I can talk to, that gives me this access into this Victorian world. I'm also very nervous because I don't know what sort of reaction I'm going to get.
Sylvie is cared for by her daughter Iris, Danny's distant cousin.
You babes, you all right?
You look lovely.
You look beautiful now.
Come see Auntie Syl.
I will do, come. Hello, my darling.
What have you put me in?
I know, I do apologise. Come here, kiss. You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I don't want to be a celebrity.
No, nor do I, darling.
It's too much like hard work.
It is hard work, babe. Believe you me. Don't worry about
I
it.
didn't realise there was so much in it.
Auntie Sylvie is your oldest living relative.
And you're still not going to pay out, beautiful little thing.
I know, 92.
Well, I found out some stuff about your mother, Mary Ann, over the last couple of days.
My mum,
I don't know how much you know. some quite upsetting stuff.
She was
Well,
a
the
proper
work-
old East Ender.
Proper old East Ender.
I've known my mother for people to come up and say to her, got a couple of shillings to lend us, old girl. She says, no, I've only got enough for myself, but she's lent them her washing to take and pawn to get a couple of bob. She had heart of gold, my mum.
This is the only picture we've got of Mary Ann. This is Mary Ann here.
Right. For me, your mother, amazing woman. That's what I found out. I've done a little bit of research. Did you know that Mary Ann has got a criminal record? Right.
Oh.
What it was concealing a dead baby. Right.
Oh.
So when she was 17, she got pregnant. She had a little girl. And the little girl was 2 minutes old, so that would have been your sister. So obviously she was distraught. She didn't hurt the baby, she didn't kill the baby, she just tried to do it on her own. She obviously wasn't savvy enough to tie the cord. Of course, the baby needs the cord to be tied because they bleed out. And of course, she was so scared, she hid it in a bucket. Yeah, hid it in a bucket, and someone found it. And
So all that of the past I wouldn't have known anything about because I was the youngest of the lot.
of course,
10.
of course. But you didn't know that you had another sister.
None of us knew.
So she didn't say nothing about that. No.
Not one of us knew anything.
She never ever mentioned anything like that, did she?
Well, I suppose why would you?
No one ever knew about that.
That's what I'm saying. How do you? How do you approach it? I mean, to even come through that and still be a decent human being says a lot about the woman.
Yeah, it's funny she lost the baby at 17 because in later life she delivered all the babies. She delivered me, she delivered my sister, she delivered all the babies in the flats, and they used to call her Aunt Polly and say, go and get Aunt Polly quick, there's another baby coming. So, yeah, she turned out to be like a midwife, really.
If a baby come quick like that, she would never touch a cord.
No.
She'd wait till the nurse got there.
She would never do that herself, obviously, because...
Explains it, doesn't it?
She was thinking back to what happened to her, I suppose.
Of course, absolutely. So that really does make sense now.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're focused on the Buttevant side of it. Is there anything else you can tell me about Albert and Anne?
I was about 9 when my grandparents died, I think. And he always had that gentlemanly bit about him, right smart.
Yeah,
and his old fob watch. He originated from French.
By all accounts, he came from a very rich family.
So a very rich French family?
Rich French family. His name was Boutevant.
Yeah. There's posh in it, that.
Boutevant.
So there is some money involved in our family, although we never saw none of it.
Yeah.
Going right back, because, I mean, we've never had any dough, do you know what I mean? None of us. So it's lovely seeing Sylv. Very interested in Albert. I've ordered his birth certificate because I want to learn more about him. I want to see maybe how much he was worth, if it says any of that, how French he was. Am I French? How French am I? I know I look French and all that. So, born 4th of November 1851. And he was born Church Lane, Whitechapel. That's strange. He was born in Whitechapel, so he's a Londoner. Name of mother's Hannah Sarah. Name of father, Charles. OK. His occupation of his dad, Charles, is a commercial clerk. That sounds like he could be still worth money. There's nothing about being French here, though, other than the name. That sounds Cockney French in my eyes. Buttevant. However you pronounce it, Boutevant. I'd say Buttevant. No, there's no T's in it. So I need to find out more, really. Interesting. I feel like I've come to a bit of a dead end. I don't really know what to do. I don't really know what sort of route to go down. I'm confused by it all, and I don't know what to do. I just hope that this journey gets a little bit more jolly, to be honest.
Danny's come to meet expert genealogist Laura Berry, who's agreed to work on his family tree to see if she can help him solve the French mystery.
So, Laura, my 4 times great-grandfather, Charles Buttevant, I was led to believe was French.
Well, I have done a bit of research, as you can see from this family tree here.
OK.
And you're at the bottom. And then we've got your 4 times great-grandfather,
yeah.
Charles Buttevant, is here.
Here he is.
I've managed to go back a little bit further, but I'm afraid I haven't been able to find any French ancestry in these immediate generations here. Although I have managed to find something quite interesting going back through Charles's mother, Anne Gosnold, who came from a really prominent Suffolk family. And if you work up the tree to Robert Gosnold, who is your 10 times great-grandfather.
10 times great. I love this. This is 10 times great-grandfather, Robert Gosnold. Wow.
And he was born in 1611 and died in 1658. And actually, on his baptism record, dating from 1611, it was written in Latin, and it is quite difficult to read. But there's
I can't do it Latin.
It's all right. I've not got it.
Oh, good.
But he, it does say that his father, Robert Gosnold, was an armiger, and I don't know if that phrase means anything to you.
I wish I was intelligent enough to say yes, but no, it doesn't. It means no. I don't know what it means. What does it mean?
Well, it's interesting because it suggests that he was part of the landed gentry and that he had a coat of arms. We've got a picture of it here.
Wow. Finally, some money in my family. So I've been led to believe there was money in my family, and it's been the complete opposite so far. Shame it was in the 17th century. So Robert's me man. OK. I'm hoping he's Keiko Bako. And that in Cockney sort of means really rich.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like caked. That would be quite exciting. I need to find out more about this geezer, don't I?
Well,
I'm hoping he's a proper geezer, like proper.
What's interesting about your 10 times great-grandfather's dates, you know, he was alive in the 1640s and 1650s. He would have been an adult during the English Civil War, and the landed gentry did tend to play quite prominent roles in the English Civil War, so I think he would be a really interesting person to investigate a bit further.
Robert Gosnold. Sounds posh. So I'm very excited. Robert Gosnold possibly could have fought in the English Civil War. and it's exciting because, you know, I want a real man. I want a bit of, I want a leader of men in my life. And I need some good news because I've had some pretty heavy stuff up until this point.
Danny has travelled to Oxford to meet Professor Mark Stoyle, a Civil War historian.
I know this is a very old pub, the oldest pub in Oxford, but why are we here?
Well, Oxford at this time is absolutely rammed with people. So there are, you know, the normal townsfolk, and there are also thousands of soldiers.
Yeah.
So we can be quite certain this pub would have had soldiers billeted in it. I know a certain amount about Robert Gosnold, and he was in the English Civil War.
He was.
He himself might even have popped into this pub. He would certainly have walked
He would have
down
popped
Oxford
into
Street.
this pub. Of course he was in here. Yeah, I love that.
So this is the kind of, you know, ambience.
That gives me a little shiver up the spine. That does, to think that, you know, he could have been knocking about in here.
Danny's ancestor, Colonel Robert Gosnold, fought in the bloody English Civil War, which began in 1642 and saw nearly 200,000 people lose their lives. Supporters of King Charles I, the Royalists, were pitted against the parliamentarians. After a number of defeats, the King's army were on the run, and finally retreated to Oxford in 1646. By this stage, only the most loyal troops were still standing by Charles I, and Robert Gosnold was among them.
And the fact that he's decided to put himself into Oxford and defend the king's capital, even when things are going so badly for Charles, shows that he's sort of an uber royalist, an uber cavalier, if you like.
Well, I'm not really a royalist.
Yeah.
None of my family are really. I don't know why I'm not a royalist, mate, but now I want to be a royalist for some reason. I feel like I should be.
This is an image of Oxford as it was at the time. It shows you the incredible earthworks that the royalists had built around it. And this fortress was about to be attacked by the strongest army in the British Isles.
Outnumbered completely, yeah.
Completely. These are the parliamentarian troops.
Yeah, look at them all there, yeah, just waiting to pounce.
And Robert is in there somewhere.
You're probably in here?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it, I love it.
As the parliamentarians advanced ever closer, the king disguised himself and escaped Oxford in April 1646. He was eventually arrested and executed. Charles left behind his loyal troops, who were forced to negotiate the final surrender.
Even at this point, when all is clearly lost, Robert himself and his sort of close comrades are not keen to surrender. Even though there's virtually no hope left to them, they still want to hold out.
He was game as you like.
Yeah. He's taking royalism about as far as it can be taken. The loyalty that these men are showing is incredible, really.
We've definitely got that in our family, you know.
Yeah.
It's about heart and spirit. And this seems to be a recurring theme for me.
Yeah.
You know, battling against the odds and still coming out the other side. He's a force, mate. He's a powerful, powerful man. And I'm hopelessly in love with him. So, Robert Gosnold is my hero at this point. What a man. King Charles I obviously had his head chopped off. But what happened to Robert? You know, what was his fate? That's what I'm intrigued about.
Danny has come to Robert Gosnold's village, Otley in Suffolk, to meet local historian Stephen Potts.
Stephen?
Danny.
How are you?
I'm very well. Pleased to meet you.
Pleasure, pleasure.
Welcome to Otley.
Thank you. So, Stephen, Robert Gosnold, what a man. Absolutely fascinated by this character. I've learnt a bit about him. Is there any more you can tell me about him?
Well, good place to start is to come here and to Otley Hall and see exactly where he lived.
Oh, wow. So this is Robert Gosnold's house. I'm not ready for this, Stephen. I'm really not ready for this. Oh, wow. This is the most beautiful house I've ever seen, I think.
This is one of the finest Grade 1 listed houses in the whole of the county. Yeah.
This is up there. Is that one of his peacocks, or... do they bite peacocks, by the way?
Don't think so.
I know that Robert was an uber royalist. I know he was on the losing side in the war. We all know King Charles I's fate. I don't know what happened to Robert. Was he imprisoned? I mean...
No, they didn't imprison the royalists, but they did exploit them. So they would have taken money from their estates during the Civil War, and they set up a system whereby they could fine them because what they needed more than anything else was money.
Yeah.
There's lots of documentation that still exists that shows what happened to him.
What date is it?
This is dated 1st of September 1646, so this is just a few months after the war has ended.
To the Honourable Committee at Goldsmiths Hall for compositions with delinquents.
Do you know what that means?
No.
So anybody who was a royalist and supported Charles was a delinquent.
Right, OK.
We've got the transcript there.
Ah, this is more a bit of me, OK. He prays a direction to the committee in the country to pay the arrears of various rents and annuities for the time they have received the rents and profits of his lands, that he is indebted £1,200, wow, that his houses are decayed and spoiled to the value of £500, and his woods cut down and wasted to the value of £1,000. Fine is £600. What we're talking in today's money?
Difficult to put it in terms of today's money, but we're certainly talking about the equivalent of several £100,000.
So they've hit him for severe reddies, as you'd say in East London. Severe reddies.
Severe reddies, yeah.
I like the fact you just said that.
This would have hurt him tremendously.
And they knew he'd come from wealth, so they've hit him hard, didn't they?
Yep, they want the money. But he ends up mortgaging, remortgaging, and so on. And finally, after his death, his heirs have no choice but to sell the land on.
So they basically just lost everything, really, because they were royalists.
Yeah.
Just snatched away from them.
Yeah.
All this beauty.
So at this point, the Gosnolds are no longer landed gentry. They have no land, they go down the social scale, and no hope of ever getting back to where they were before.
Yeah. I knew it was all too good to be true. There's never really been any money in my family at all. You know.
Don't despair. Robert's mother, so your Colonel Robert's mother, was a Tolmash.
A what?
A Tolmash, Anne Tolmash. And the Tolmash family are still a landowning family, in fact, in the very next village to here, to this day.
I should go to the next village then and cause some chaos.
Danny has discovered that the Gosnells are related to the Tolmash family via his 11 times great-grandmother, Anne Tolmash, the mother of Colonel Robert Gosnold. Danny's going to meet his distant relative, the current Lord Tolmash.
So I'm at Helmingham Hall, owned by the Tolmashes. I have no idea about the Tolmashes. I'm getting a rough idea as I drive down. The size of this gaff's ridiculous. What? Wow. There's a geezer waiting for me. I'm assuming he's my relative.
Hello, Danny.
Hello, young man.
Very nice to meet you.
Absolute pleasure, yeah, pleasure.
Well, welcome to Helmingham.
What a gaff you got here.
Well, I'll put the drawbridge down for you.
Can I drive over it?
You certainly can.
Hero. The geezer's got a drawbridge, hell. He has an all. Oh, I don't think I'm going to go over this, babe, to be honest. I can't believe this, honestly. I cannot believe it. How can these people be my relatives? And why don't I know about this? All right. Let's go and have a bit of bunny with the Lord. Oh. So, you're a lord. Can I call you Tim?
You can call me Tim.
As we're related?
Very much so.
So, we're related through the Gosnolds.
We are.
And I believe you've been a Tolmash. My 11 times great-grandmother was Anne Tolmash, is that right?
That's absolutely right, yes.
OK.
It was Anne who was the daughter of Sir Lionel Tolmash and his wife, Catherine. And Anne was born and bred here.
I mean, this just took my breath away. I mean, this is another level of house. Is it a house? I mean, it's got a moat. I'm still...
Well, you know, this place, it was built... We came here 500 years ago and built Helmingham, as it stands today, with its moat and its drawbridge. But I'll tell you what, the Helmingham Church is just over there.
OK.
And we've got some monuments to many, many Tolmashes there, including Anne's father, Lionel Tolmash. Yeah.
Let's do it, Tim, let's do it.
Well, there are a lot of monuments in this church, but the one I want you to see is up here.
OK.
And it is actually the very, very top one, made by Lionel Talmash, the one at the top.
So that would be my 12 times great-grandfather.
That's right.
Wow.
So Lionel Talmash, and then his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. And each one of them has got a little rhyme or couplet describing what they did in life. I don't know whether you can read it. You probably can't. It's quite difficult.
Not for me, no, I don't think so. I think I'll struggle with that.
So I've got it written down there.
Here with his fathers sleeps Sir Lionel, knight baronet, all honours worthy well, happy in soul, in body, goods and name, happy in wedlock with a noble dame, Lord Cromwell's daughter. Lord Cromwell's daughter. Hold on a minute. So
Lionel Talmash's wife, Catherine Cromwell, was the great-granddaughter of Thomas Cromwell. And he was Henry VIII's great statesman and supporter and courtier.
Wow.
But I've got a picture of Catherine here. It's one of the portraits which hangs in Helmingham Hall. And that is her, our mutual ancestor.
I'm gonna put the lips on her, Tim. I'm gonna put the lips on. As she's my family. As she's my family. There she is. See the resemblance? Got it? Hey? Yeah? I love it. I love it. So, Danny Dyer is a direct descendant of Thomas Cromwell. I can't believe it. I don't know what to say. I'll say it again. I'm a direct descendant of Thomas Cromwell.
Danny's learned that via his 12 times great-grandmother, Catherine Cromwell, he's descended from Thomas Cromwell, King Henry VIII's right-hand man. So he's heading back to London to find out more about his famous ancestor.
Just about to pull into the gaff now. Hampton Court Palace, of course, it's Hampton Court Palace. My 15 times great-grandfather. Yeah.
He's come to meet Thomas Cromwell's biographer, Tracy Borman.
Welcome to Hampton Court.
Pleasure.
Well, congratulations.
So, yeah.
You're related to the most controversial man in British history.
Oh, most controversial.
I think so, yeah. In recent times, we've grown to love Thomas Cromwell, but he was always the villain of history.
Was he?
The man you love to hate.
Yeah, so he's a bit like Marmite, was he?
Exactly. So this is the sort of place where Cromwell would have been, literally burning the midnight oil as he was working for the king. This is the Great Hall, the centrepiece of Henry VIII's palace, built to impress, as you can see.
Yeah. You could have a right rave in here, couldn't you, Bobo?
And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And Cromwell would have been at quite a few of them. Would you like to see a picture?
I'd love to see a smudge of him.
Well, this was painted by the most famous portrait painter of the age, Holbein. And I think, actually, there is more than a passing resemblance. I have to say, yep, I do. I think around the nose, if you were to look a little bit more intimidating.
The puffy eyes, yeah, I get that bit, yeah.
What do you think of him?
Terry liked his grub as well. We've got the jowls.
Yep, the Cromwell jowls.
The Cromwell jowls, I'm going to call it now. Yeah, that man, I've got his blood running through my veins. Excites me a lot, although I don't know that much about him, so...
Well, this portrait's got a lot to answer for because it's, I think, largely due to this that people see him as a villain. because he
Well,
does
he's
look...
looking pretty sinister there, isn't
Yeah.
he? Looking at somebody like he's about to maybe have them executed or...
You wouldn't mess with him, would you?
Certainly not, no. Certainly not.
He wasn't of noble birth. He had very humble origins. He was born in about 1485 in Putney. Now, obviously, today Putney is a nice part of London. It wasn't in the late 15th century when Cromwell was born. Not the sort of place you'd want to find yourself after dark. It was full of cutthroats and criminals, and one of the worst of all was Cromwell's father, Walter. He was a blacksmith and he was a brewer. He had his own pub and he was always in trouble with the law.
And so he's managed this unbelievable rise from where he came from.
Yeah.
To be sitting with Henry from the slums to there. And I mean, mine's a much more small comparison, but I'm from the slums, if you like.
99% of the people at Henry's court were from wealthy backgrounds. He was extraordinary. You know, he was an absolute phenomenon.
It's ridiculous, is what it is.
It is. I never thought I'd meet anybody who was related to Thomas Cromwell. That's extraordinary. Historians have speculated, what was it about this blacksmith's son that appealed to Henry? And certainly Henry recognised Cromwell's great talent. He was, by this time, he was a self-taught lawyer by this time. He was an exceptionally sharp man. I've always thought there was more to it than that. I think what appealed to Henry about Cromwell, he was cheeky. He would make the king laugh. And Henry loved that because...
Would you say it was a difficult thing to make the king laugh?
I think it, yeah.
And if you overstepped the mark with the king, you know, you were brown bread.
He was cheeky. He was known to be funny. He would make even his enemies laugh. But it's not all plain sailing between Henry and Cromwell. They're two quite big personalities, so you can imagine they clash.
Right.
And we've got a letter here written by a courtier.
So the king benave of him twice a week and sometimes knock him well about the pate.
That's the head, yeah.
And yet when he have been well
pommelled
about the head and shaken up, as it were a dog, he will come out into the great chamber, shaking of the bush with as merry a countenance as though he might rule all the roost. Oh, I see. So he takes a clump in.
Yeah.
And he just goes like that, picks himself up,
exactly.
goes, walks out as if he owns a manor.
That's absolutely it.
Like, so what? Took the beating. He's proving to everyone he is the alpha male.
Absolutely. And it's funny you should say that about power. You know, by the middle of the 1530s, Cromwell is the most powerful man in England. There's only the king who's above him. He is Henry VIII's chief minister. He's running the show.
It's just ridiculous.
He is in charge of everything. And then the sort of highest that he rises is in 1540, and I think you'll like this. He is made Earl of Essex. And this is his heraldry as the Earl of Essex.
Which is where I live.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, I'm sort of the Earl of Essex.
Yep, by descent.
I think it's going to change me as a human being. Not in a bad way, but in a way of thinking.
Yeah, definitely.
In a positive way.
Yeah, can imagine.
Certainly going to give me more confidence.
So Cromwell, at this point of his career, seems utterly invincible, but I'm afraid things are about to go very horribly wrong.
Of course they are. Of course they are. I suppose he's getting very cocky. He's starting to push it too far, maybe, all these noblemen and well-educated people, and he's starting to rub their nose in it, isn't he?
Absolutely. And I'm afraid he's about to pay.
Tracy has led Danny to the Tower of London.
So you'll take me into a dungeon, are you?
I'm afraid so.
Which is where, in June 1540, Danny's 15 times great-grandfather, Thomas Cromwell, was brought on charges of treason and heresy.
It was really a coup by his enemies at court, particularly the Duke of Norfolk. He'd always hated this base-born boy from Putney.
Yeah.
And he managed to convince Henry VIII that Cromwell was plotting treason, plotting to supplant the king himself, to marry the king's daughter, Mary. And the charges were ridiculous.
You know, Cromwell couldn't get into Henry's head, no? Because he was quite clever at getting into his head, and all of a sudden, he couldn't anymore.
His only chance of survival was to persuade Henry to change his mind. He wrote 3 letters to Henry, and we have a copy of the last letter here.
Beseeching most humble your grace to pardon this my rude writing, and to consider that I am a most woeful prisoner, ready to take the death when it shall please God and your majesty. Most gracious prince, I cry for mercy, mercy, mercy. So, my 15 times great-grandfather really is desperate now.
On the morning of the 28th of July, 1540, Thomas Cromwell was taken from his cell. Private executions within the walls of the Tower were reserved for those of blue blood. Tower Hill, with its huge mobs, was for the commoners, like Cromwell.
It takes 3 blows of the axe to sever Cromwell's head, and that head is then set on a spike and put on London Bridge alongside all the heads of all the traitors, there for everyone to see.
It's a weird feeling to think that one of my ancestors, you know, would have suffered this. So he was born a commoner.
Yeah,
And he died a commoner.
absolutely.
And he had that mad period in between.
He did. But a few years previous to his execution, he'd done something so clever that it was feathering the nest of the Cromwells for a long time to come. And that is to arrange an extraordinarily prestigious marriage for his son, Gregory. Now, this may be a portrait of the young Gregory, to the sister of Jane Seymour. This was the wife whom Henry was said to have loved more than all the others because she gave him a son. So you can imagine what an alliance for the Cromwells. They're now marrying into the royal family. It was a brilliant move on Cromwell's part. So, Danny, you're descended from the firstborn son of Gregory, whom they named in honour of the king. He was Henry.
No.
That's a bittersweet fact, I think.
That is bittersweet, isn't it?
Danny has discovered that his 14 times great-grandfather, Gregory Cromwell, was married to Elizabeth, the sister of Queen Jane Seymour, Henry VIII's third and favourite wife.
To find out who I was related to was a lot for me to take in. And I've woke up today and I really want to find out about the Seymours. So that's my aim today. I think that's the path I've chose.
Danny has come to Westminster Abbey to meet Peter O'Donoghue, a herald from the College of Arms and an expert in the pedigree of the oldest families in the land.
Hi, Danny.
How are you, Peter? All right.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Right, well, come and sit down and we'll have a talk. Now, you've been learning about Cromwell, I gather, your ancestor, Thomas Cromwell.
Yeah, my 15 times great-grandfather.
So, building on that, what we've got here is a scroll which will show you a bit about the history of your family. So here is Gregory Cromwell and his wife, Elizabeth Seymour.
OK, so Elizabeth Seymour, John Seymour, Wentworths, Sir Henry Hotspur Percy, Philippa Plantagenet. Explain to me.
So I don't know if that name, Plantagenet...
Plantagenet, obviously not,
rings any
because I
bells.
just said it wrong, so I have no idea.
Right. Well, that, if you follow the line back up to the top, you'll see where that name
Lionel
takes us.
Plantagenet. Edward III.
Edward III, that great medieval king. So Edward III, yes, he's your 22 times great-grandfather. So you are directly descended from King Edward III of England.
I can't be. Can't be. A direct descendant from Edward III. So Danny dies right at the bottom of that scroll, and Edward III's at the top. It's just stupid, isn't it?
That's great. It's fantastic. It's quite amazing.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It really is. I just need to just digest it and get it in my nut, and then I can move on with my life. And I think I'm going to treat myself to a ruff.
What, the...
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a good look for you.
Just get a massive ruff, just bowl about with it, and, you know, if anyone questions it, and then I'll explain to them why I'm wearing a ruff.
That's true, yeah.
And then they'll have to walk away, won't they, embarrassed.
And actually, we can go and find out a bit more about Edward III, if you like, further up in the Abbey.
Yeah, can I just have a moment?
Sure.
Just have a moment. Just have a moment to myself to just... A kid from Canning Town, Custom House. And this is my bloodline. OK, I've had my moment now, let's go. Let's go and have a pipe at Edward III, my 22 times great-grandfather.
I'm going over here.
Where is he?
Right, so this is your ancestor, Edward III. You can see his name,
Yep.
Edwardus there.
Edwardus.
Yeah?
It's laughable.
It doesn't feel real, you mean?
Of course it doesn't feel real. It's ridiculous to think somebody of my stature, somebody, you know, from absolutely nothing, and actually my blood is his blood. I can't compute it in my brain. This man's related to me.
Yeah.
This wonderful, powerful man.
Not only are you descended from Edward III, you're descended from all of his royal ancestors, right back to William the Conqueror. But you are also descended from Henry III, who built this abbey.
So, I'm on my way home now to show my family this beauty, and to basically tell them that we're royalty. I'm so excited, I can't wait. Oh, I'm home finally. Ah, Adito. Gindanzo. Hello, baby. Come here. Come here, you.
Oh.
Mwah. This kiss. Mwah. I'm so excited. Right. So, just roll that down. Roll it down. All right. Now look at the bottom. All right. It's Daddy at the bottom. All right. And we go up. And we go up through this mob, right? Here's the Cromwells. And look, that is my 22 times great-grandfather, Edward III. So basically...
The king.
The king. The king. And what are you, a prince?
Yeah.
We're blue blood, all right?
No
way! So cop for that. Go on, let's go up.
my God! I knew I was a princess!
Right, it's been lovely. It's been a wonderful journey. But can you get off my drive now, please? Paupers. Go on. Get out, Mark. Go on, get out. Go on, as I call me security. So, go on. Say, get out of it. Go on.
Get out of it.
That's it, good boy. Ta-da.
Well, fancy that, eh? I should definitely look into my family tree. If you're switching over to BBC Two, Later with Jules Holland is just about to start. And after the news, we're live from Bolton with Question Time here on BBC One.
you to every single one of you for getting together and fundraising this year.
Your support means we can continue to make a difference to many young lives here in the UK. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Crush.
You.
#Orcs.
Michael McIntyre's Big Show starts Saturday at 8:10 on BBC One and iPlayer.
He was my husband, and you were my best friend.
You're a good thing.
Are you sure about that?
I'm really sorry, Mum. You don't deserve this.
Don't trust anyone.
Gold Digger, Tuesday at 9 on BBC One. All episodes streaming now on BBC iPlayer.
BBC Three's The Young Offenders. New series, all episodes streaming now on BBC iPlayer.
Money, money, money. Who knew there was so much of it? And just in time for an election, too. Whose sums add up? And is anyone being economical with the truth? With us tonight, the government's Housing Secretary, Labour's Shadow Justice Secretary, Lib Dem Chuka Umunna, the SNP, and columnist for The Telegraph, Sherelle Jacobs. Join us after the news.
This is BBC One. It's now time for the BBC News at 10 with Sophie Rayworth.
Jeremy Corbyn launches Labour's general election manifesto and vows to transform Britain with huge investment and big spending. He calls it the most radical and ambitious plan for the country in decades. It'll be funded by big borrowing and big taxes on business and the wealthy.
Vote for this manifesto of hope. It's time for real change. Thank you.
Among the plan's 100,000 council houses a year until 2025 and nationalising railways, mail, water and energy companies. He rejects claims his plans are not credible and says he'll take on the bankers, billionaires and the establishment holding people back. Also tonight, the former First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond, appears in court charged with 14 sexual offences against 10 women, including one of attempted rape. A number of orphaned British children caught up in the war in Syria are to be brought home to the UK, says the Foreign Secretary. Murdered more than 30 years ago, Helen McCourt's family say they're horrified after her killer is recommended for release despite refusing to tell them where her body is. And why Coldplay have announced that they won't be going on tour to promote their latest album.
Later on BBC London, after a man fell into the path of a tube, how safe do commuters feel on crowded platforms? And encouraging students to use their vote with special guests at One London University.
Good evening. Jeremy Corbyn has launched Labour's general election manifesto